Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all you viewers out there. And thank you very much for joining us in this other series of intimate conversations. Today we have a guest who we're really excited to bring on, and this is Dan Abdelnoor, who is joining us today. Welcome, Dan.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Beautiful. So, Dan, I'll just read your bio. This is in Dan's words. Dan is an author, a musician, a dog trainer, a father of two children, a husband, and a man with a huge heart for humanity and Mother Earth. He spent over a decade helping tens of thousands of dogs find a better life with their owners as a dog trainer. He's a qualified mathematics teacher and civil engineer, and even walked the beat as a British police officer. I giggled at that. I didn't know that part, Dan. But his real passion is helping men and women discover the truth about who they are, and in doing so, helping them find the depth in relationships that they're looking for. Whether it be running men's groups in his own home, helping out on men's weekends, or running workshops and retreats for men and women with his partner of 25 years, Jenni. His heart and his mission is to help leave the world a better place for us all. Wow. So I know the passion that you have in your heart. I've seen you working in that passion just very briefly and all of that, Dan. So I definitely know you are a very passionate man about your heart and what it calls to. So you've had a few different jobs and things over the years and done a lot of different things, but behind all of that stuff, who is actually Dan, the dog trainer?
Who is the Dan trainer? Dan the dog trainer. Yeah. So I, I think the best way to answer that question is I'm the sort of guy who, well, I was telling somebody this the other day. I drove over a bird. It went between the two wheels of my car. I deliberately made sure I didn't hit it. And I
Yeah.
was like, oh no, poor bird. And then I thought, hang on, it was alive. That was okay. That wasn't dead. And I thought, stop the car. I thought, no, it was dead. And I carried on driving, drove for a little bit further. And then I was thinking, no, it was alive. You should go back. A little voice inside my head said, turn around, go back.
Yeah.
It was actually screaming at me. I carried on driving another 100, 200 meters, and then I thought, I should have gone back. And I looked in the mirror, and there was another car had driven over it, and I carried on driving, and something inside me was screaming, go back and help the bird. And I drove for like probably 2 minutes. So I finally thought, I'm not going to be able to forgive myself if I don't go back. And so
Yeah.
it kind of makes me laugh because I'm a bit of a slow learner. I finally got the message. I stopped the car, reversed it, drove all the way back thinking, well, the bird's either going to be dead or squashed or gone. It was still sat there. And I
Yeah.
realized it obviously had concussion, a bit like a boxer who's been punched
Yeah.
almost unconscious and stood there just defending himself. So I jumped out of the car, picked up this bird, held it in my hands, looked at it. And after a minute or two or five, opened its eyes and stared straight at me. And
Mhm.
it's looking into my eyes, and I'm looking at this bird, and it's like the deepest connection. And 5, 10 minutes later, I felt the bird was ready to go. I stood up, walked outside, held him up, and he flew up into the trees.
Oh,
And the video of that is actually on my YouTube channel. I think it's Doggy Dan Saves or Rescues a Bird or something. But the point was that's kind of who I am.
yeah.
Connection to the animals. I just have a huge love for life. All animals,
Beautiful.
whether it's humans or dogs or
Yes.
all animals, all animals.
And so what started you with the dog training? What got you into, the doggy Dan?
Well, that's a funny question because it was actually I tried a lot of jobs. So I started doing a civil engineering degree at
Hmm.
Birmingham University, UK. Couldn't get a job. There was no one was taking on. So 100 applications to 100 companies, no interviews. Then I decided to become a maths teacher because I wanted to help children. Then I became a British police officer, but I was going to become very frustrated in that. I jumped around. IT, came to New Zealand, worked in the wine industry as a sales manager, corporate. I could do these jobs, but they didn't fill me with that passion and joy. And what I didn't understand at the time was, I know I'm not a quitter. I do not quit.
Mm.
But here I was quitting job after job after job. It was felt like I was going against who I be. But then I realized, no, I'm not a quitter, and I will not live a life less than what my life can be. And I was simply searching for that path of true fulfillment. And so now I wasn't quitting. I was going, nah, not quite right, not right. And it's where I find myself today. So I went to a careers advisor. She did some incredible analysis of my mind, both statistical and also just emotional. What you love, tell us about your stories of what you remember as a child. And my stories was like, went to the beach, did this, dogs, walked the dogs before school, played soccer and came home and played with the dogs, dogs. And she said, all your life you've loved dogs. But my mum was terrified of dogs, so we never had a dog.
Oh.
So I never thought I'd be a dog trainer. Thought you had to have been born into the dog training world. But as soon as I got into it, I was fitted like a glove. I
Wow.
could connect to the dogs very quickly. And
That's beautiful. And I understand that job after job, finding the right thing. I was the same, and I'm not a quitter either. And it used to bug me. It was like, gosh, why can't you just stick with this, But if the passion's not there, it's just not there, and you can't. There's no, the sort of being in it half pie in a sense.
Well, they don't teach you at school, and they can't. But I mean, why would they suggest dog training to me at school?
Exactly.
And they don't have the skills often to help you find what you're actually good at. And what you think you're good at when you're younger is actually not what you realize you love or what you're really good at later on. What changes. So.
Yeah. And so I know you've got a very special dog that has taught you many, many things, Peanut. So tell us about your relationship with Peanut, or Peanut's relationship with you, really.
Yeah, so Peanut was the first dog I ever got. And the funny thing was, she was so well behaved. Everybody said that's the best behaved dog I've ever seen. And so I kind of, ego grew, and I thought I was great. And just, what have all these people got problems with their dogs? What's the matter with them? So I decided to become a dog trainer pretty much because of Peanut. So saying she changed my life is not an understatement, because, even now I'm kind of known as Doggy Dan. I've got Dog Trainer Academy, written the book. It's all because of this dog who... But the funniest thing was, it was only after I got another dog, I realized I wasn't that great with dogs. Peanut was just an amazing dog. I'd got lucky. So that's who Peanut was. She passed away about 4 or 5 years ago now. She passed away. But the journey with her was nothing short of phenomenal. She was a master of energy. And she showed me that, because she could read every dog. She could walk into a situation, whether the dog was a puppy or an aggressive dog, and she knew and everything in between. And she knew how to behave. She knew which dogs to tell off. She knew which dogs to back away from. So she could lie close to another dog, obviously setting up the safety factors of dogs on leads and stuff, but she would lie down near them and calm them with her energy. And I'd be like, okay, so you can go closer. And she said, yep, let me closer. I'd be like, are you sure? She'd be like, I'm sure I can. And she never got it wrong. Never got it wrong in 13 and a half years. She was like, let me closer. I'm like, really? And then there's the point where the two dogs' heads, which have got the weapons on, which is the mouth, that's how they can injure each other. And then there comes the point where you have to say, I'm going to let this dog's head get close enough to the other dog so potentially they can bite. Now, that's a huge decision, because you can read them and think, I think they're okay. They're looking at each other kind of, I don't think they're going to bite. I think they're just, but she would say, let me close. And she never got it wrong. So she'd get close. And there was one dog in particular, to give you an example. There was a dog who was a big dog, which makes it more serious. It was barking. It was, I was like, whoa. And the lady said, he's aggressive. I was like, okay. Well, Peanut was like, let me close. I was like, no, Peanut, not this one. She's like, let me close. Well, she let me, I trusted her enough to let her close. And she kept saying, let me right up to this dog. There's nothing wrong with this dog. And I never forget it. This dog came up and she got close, and the dog just went,
wow.
what it was. He's okay. And so she was a phenomenal look. And when she passed over, I was with her when she took her final breath. And that was, I could chat a long time about that because there was a lot of things happened. But the bottom line was, she told me, she gave me the gift of some music, which I now bring through. It's a harmonium instrument. She said, play this music. She looked into my eyes and said, there's nothing to fear.
Wow.
It was a beautiful experience. And you know, I'm a big fan now, a big believer. We need to be with our animals when they pass over, not pass them on to somebody else to put them to sleep there.
Yeah.
Just like your parents or you know, you want to do your best. If somebody you love is going to leave this earth, you want to be with them. Same with the dogs.
Do.
No different.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of things went on in those final few moments with her. And very powerful.
Yes.
And this is where the energy and the spiritual side of things comes in. I have another dog called Jack, who is just the master of death. If it's serious, if it's big, if there's lives on the line, he knows and he wants to get involved. He's not interested in trivial stuff. Pats and cuddles and we all love each other and play games and no. But when there's serious, so I knew because I'd seen him when one of our chickens who he loved died. This chicken would sit on his back, walk between his legs. She was the top bird.
Yeah.
Top of the pecking order. When she passed over, he went and lay next to where she'd been buried for about 3-4 hours.
Oh.
Like he was holding space for her. And he did that again and again with animals that he loved. And I knew when Peanut died that something special would happen. And sure enough, Peanut passed away. That dog refused to come into the room, refused to come into the house. He already knew she'd gone. And then he went and did a very strange thing. He went and climbed into the back seat of my car where Peanut used to lie. I'd never been in there before. And he lay there. And I didn't get it to start with. I thought, what are you doing in here? Come on out, you get. And he actually looked like he didn't want to bite me. But it's the one time I thought, he's going to bite me. He was literally saying, do not touch me. I'm doing work.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, you got to be here. You've got to stay here. And he went, yeah. Left him there for 3 hours and it's done.
Wow.
So much learning from the animals. And most of it revolves around the energy these animals hold. They read ours. That's what's real. It's real. How to connect with them.
Yes. It's very special, eh?
Yeah.
I had a tortoiseshell cat. I can't even think now where she came from. I mean, they just appear to us, don't they, when they're meant to be. And when I was shifting from being in a place for 9 years, she decided she didn't want to go. And she walked up to the letterbox with me. We were in the country. And she just said to me there, I'm not coming with you. And I said, well, what are you going to do? She said, I'm going. I'm just going to go. And she looked at me like, and it's okay, you know, because I was a bit stunned. I was like, oh, no, I don't want you to go. And then she just walked across the road and across the paddock. I don't know where she was heading. Obviously, she had a plan. And that was it. I never saw her again. And then another tortoiseshell cat turned up years later, and I know it was her again. And we lived in a place for 4 or 5 years, and then we were having to move. And she said the same thing. She said, I'm not going with you either this time. And I thought, gosh, this is her back again. And I said, okay, well, sweet as, whatever, you know. And she just actually got hit. It was such a clean hit. There was no blood. There was no mess, nothing. But she wanted to leave. And that was it. We buried her and that was it, you know. But I've really learned from them that they definitely incarnate very quickly. I've had one cat who's been 3 times incarnated into my life here again, and he comes back very quickly. Same sort of big build cat, you know, Tabby. And I've learned to really honour them in there because we don't own them. You know, we just don't. People think we own them, but we just don't. And they choose their time with us. They choose when they want to leave, and as we do too, I suppose. But yeah. It's a beautiful
totally.
relationship.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
And just energetically, they just absolutely know. I mean, they teach us really. They taught me anyway a lot
I
about
have a
energy.
friend who had a beautiful big solid dog and he used to wander the neighborhood here free because a lot of the dogs used to, not so much now, but
Yeah.
a decade ago they'd wander around the streets. And she told me one day he was getting on a bit and he was leaving the lounge, the living room, and she said he looked back at me and he went, bye bye,
Mm.
this is it.
Yeah.
She looked at him and she went, I feel like he said he's going out to die, he's never coming back, because he was
Mm.
real old. It
Yes.
was his time. And she said, I knew he was never going to come back. And he said goodbye in that way. He just looked at her and
Yeah.
said, I'm going out and
Yeah.
I
That
won't
was
come back
Miley.
and I love you.
Funny, eh?
So when you can
Mm.
read the dogs and feel like that, it's just so incredible to. It's another level of dog relating.
Yeah.
Because you realize they're always
It is.
communicating. Can I do
Absolutely.
this? What's that? What? It's beautiful to be able to
Mm.
talk to them.
Yeah. And energetically, like I adopted a dog whose owner went to jail, actually. He was a house burglar and he used to set this dog into the house to check it out whether there was anyone in there or not, honestly. Anyway, this dog had just learnt to roam the streets. He just did what he wanted to. He was a big old white type of lab. Really. He was gorgeous, but he climbed oak trees. He was this huge, big dog and he could
Climb what? Oak
climb
trees.
trees. He
Wow.
did. He climbed up the big oak tree. How on earth he carried his weight up there? Because he was huge. He was a big
Incredible.
dog.
Incredible.
Compost heap that I had outside, and he would. I had a billy, a steel billy, and he'd hear the rattle of the billy when it was getting picked up and taken out to the compost. And he was asleep on my porch upstairs, 2 stories. And as I walked along the pathway I heard him getting up on the porch and could hear his claws on it. And I turned around and I read his thought. He was backing up and he was going to leap over this balcony. And I said, Blue, don't you dare. And too late. He was, and not even running, like how he leapt even over this rail, I have no idea. But he just soared over from 2 stories up, down onto the bottom of the ground, hit the lawn, and had a little limp and then just walked normally over to the compost heap. Honestly, he was an incredible dog. He had so many superpowers. He just blew me away, this dog. And, he taught me a lot about, again, energy and the reading. Like we had a friend turn up and he recognized her from a past life. And he just absolutely went ballistic at her, and nobody else. He hadn't ever. When I sat in that, it was a past life that he'd been connected to her, and there was a altercation. But yeah, interesting. They're very interesting dogs or animals of all sorts. So interesting.
Fascinating
But yeah,
animals. Yeah.
he was unreal, that dog. You've got a book? What the dogs taught me about being a parent. How did that go, Dan? Tell us about that.
Got that around? Where's the book? I did have the book around. Oh, my microphone. It's being used to prop up my microphone. Let me get a copy out. Hang on, I'll hold the mic in one hand and didn't nobody notice that?
Well done.
That's me with a bit of hair.
Wow, yes.
So this is
Oh,
Peanut here, actually. Yeah.
oh, beautiful.
Yeah. And there's my little
Just
daughter and my
children.
son.
Yeah.
And that's Inca. So, well, when Stanley was born or about to be born or before, we jokingly said, dogs and raising dogs, it's the same or a lot of similarities. And my wife and I constantly talked about that. And I guess you don't really know until you've had children.
Mm.
And it just happened that I'd become a dog trainer. So there's year after year, I was getting more experience in dog training, more experience as a parent, going, well, hang on, here's this. And eventually I was like, the similarities were just everywhere.
Yeah.
Everywhere. It's like, yes, you can say it's different. But actually, if you drove down, got a little bit deeper, it was almost the same. Because again, at the end of most of what we're really talking about is energy. The
Yeah.
way you do something. Are you doing it with the energy of frustration? Are you doing it with the
Mm.
energy of love? Fear? The dogs know. And
Mm.
so do your children. And when you
Yeah.
get that, you go, yeah, that's it. That's what it's about.
Mm.
And so there's so many
Like,
similarities. You can blame it on the dog. I've got a faulty dog. It's because he's a collie. It's because he's too old. It's because he eats this. He was trained. He was blah, 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 blah. But it's just like blaming your children. It's my
yes.
kid's this, my kid's that, my boy's this, he's this way, he's got a certain label. But what we can change is what we're doing as dog
Mm.
owners. We can change how we behave. And guess what? When you change what you do and how you act around your dog, I mean, I've seen it. I know because I've worked with thousands and thousands. I walk in, the dog changes within 2 hours. It's a different dog.
Mm.
There's nothing wrong with the dog. I'm not training the dog. It's owner education. That's what I do.
Yeah.
And it's the same with the children. It's not really your kids. They're not, as I say in the book, your kids aren't fixed in stone. It's like nature and nurture. The thing about nature and nurture is your child is born a certain way, for sure, but nurture has a way bigger impact.
Yes. Definitely.
The most amazing
Yeah.
child can be born, but given the wrong nurture, they'll end up in as much trouble as anybody. Same
Mm.
as a child who's maybe not given the easiest or the most talents or whatever. Given the
Mm.
right amount of love, they can become a very happy child and contribute greatly to society. So,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then if you dive into the specifics of raising a child or raising a puppy and a dog, the same similarities are there. So it's
Mm.
kind of hilarious because the mistakes we're making with our dogs, we're making with our kids half the time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It is like that though.
Which
And I
which is
think that,
why when it comes to dog training, people say, "What's your dog training method?" I say, "Well, let me give you an example. When it comes to dog training, there's two main ways of training dogs currently.
yeah.
One is food bribes. One is shock collars. Generally, you use
Yeah.
correction-based force, fear, and aggression. Dog doesn't do it. You yank, you twist the ear, you give him a little bit of a kick, shock collar, spray in the face. Unpleasant results happen. Dog,
Mm.
in theory, will stop doing it. Or you use sticky cheese, clickers, reward, reward, reward. But imagine doing that with your kids.
Yeah.
Kids are fighting. What do? Oh, bring out the chocolate. Stop fighting. No fighting. Good kids, come here. Good kids, no fighting. It's not long before the kids are going, well, if we have a fight and we get told off, we get some chocolate.
Yeah, exactly.
And if
Yeah.
parenting was so easy, all you needed was the right chocolate. I mean, we wouldn't have so many problems as parents. It's not easy.
Mm.
There's more to it than that. And
Mm.
with the correction-based dog training, sure, you may get a result, but the end does not justify the means, in my opinion. So just because your child doesn't eat their food or whatever does not mean you can put a shock collar on them and go, well, look, he's eating it now. I only had to do it once.
Yes.
It's not okay. It is not
No.
okay to be shocking your dogs and shocking just because it's easy and you get a result, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Mm.
Especially when I've used a method which I know you don't need to. And the suffering that goes on in so many dogs. Ongoing suffering that a lot of people who aren't tuned into the energy of if the dog is truly happy or not don't even see because they've just got a result.
Mm.
Dog is struggling big time, big style.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not allowed to bark. If it barks, if it makes a noise, it will have an electric current put through its throat. That is not
Yeah.
okay.
No.
That is
No.
not okay. And the more revolutions around the sun I do, the wiser I become, or the more outspoken I become, because I don't care anymore about people saying whatever. I don't
Mm.
believe it's okay to electrocute the dog just to stop them from making a sound.
No, it's not. I
It's
don't
not.
know. I agree. Mm.
And I
Yeah.
think as dog trainers, a lot of people, we need to look very closely at what we're doing to make money, to get a result.
Yeah. I agree.
And so in
Very
a way,
cool.
this method I use is very much what the dogs, I believe, would like us to use.
Yeah.
It's heart-based connection with the dogs. Connecting with the dogs, feeling where they're coming from, what makes them tick, why they're actually doing what they're doing. Because when you understand the why, then what you're doing will change. Rather than saying, well, I want to train the dog to stop doing X, Y, and Z.
Mm.
Why are they doing X, Y, and Z? I don't care. I want it to stop.
Yeah.
We're not even starting at the right point of saying,
No.
let's start training the dog.
Yeah. And
Mm.
so, Dan, would you sort of feel like, this work that you're doing, say with couples, it would be the same sort of method, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
It would be teaching them how to use their heart connection.
Mm. So the work that Jenny and I are moved into over the last few years, and are moving more and more into, it's that conscious relating at the end of the day.
Mm.
It's being able to get out of our heads and into our hearts and into our feeling bodies.
Mm.
And first and foremost, again, it's about clearing our own body channels.
Yes.
So where they're not in this either needing to take or needing to get rid of either anger or frustration, and not needing to suck kind of energy or love, but we're complete. We're at peace. We're okay.
Mm.
And when we're in that place, and then we come into a relationship with another person, and they're in a place of not needing to suck your energy or love or get anything from you, and they're not needing to explode their anger or frustration at you. When those two people come together, and we've then learnt the ability to feel and to understand what it is for one person to kind of hold space and witness another.
Yes.
To, the communication, basically listening and receiving, whether it's through words or feelings. That's basically what Jenny and I are.
Because often if, and just knowing from my own experiences in my past ex-relationship marriage, there was sort of a listening, but there wasn't the how would I put it? So if I was to express something about the way I felt, say, it's often that the other person takes it on as and becomes defensive, because it's the feeling that I'm doing this to that person. I'm the one that's made this person uncomfortable or is in this place. And so then we take it on as being our stuff. And instead of just listening and hearing the other person and holding that space and allowing that that open, honest communication, really. There's a defensiveness with everyone, really, like a lot. Yeah.
And it's kind of so simple. It's so easy when it's explained to you, and you kind of get it, and you go, oh, so I've been doing that, but I should be doing. And this, I'm speaking from my own experience. I'm like, I've been doing this for 20, 30 years, and I realized I could be doing that. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Practice it. I'm like, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
And so, the kind of example which you've given, which, Jenny, my wife, we've been together 25 plus years or something.
Mm-hmm.
What we've started doing, and I just to frame our relationship, it started off in the honeymoon period for a year or 2 or 3, and then it started going, oh, it's not so good. I don't know. I thought, oh, marriage, and then it was like, and then it's like,
Yeah.
I love you.
Crazy, eh?
10 or 15 years in, it was like, I love you, but this is horrendous.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then we worked some stuff out. It's like, I said, I got to go away. And I did a 9-week trek in America to figure out my own stuff. And so it's just like in the book, I'm not blaming my dog. It's what can I do differently? It's almost like I went to say, I'm going to get a dog training. I'm going to get some help for my dog. Not that my wife's a dog.
No, I know.
I'm not blaming my wife. I'm going to go away and figure out what I can do differently in this relationship to evoke a different response from my wife. That wasn't the plan, but that's kind of what happened.
Yes.
Put very simply, when I changed, when I did stuff differently, all the things I wanted my wife to do and be and become, and the relationship and the interaction, all that happened.
Yeah.
I didn't say, if I do this, I need you to do that. I just changed. I did what I was right. And it changed. And so a small example of, I think, of what you touched into is I'll use it. Well, excuse me. So I could do it either way, but we both do this. We're far more open at sharing our honest feelings now, realizing we don't need the other person to go bah, 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 defensive, or I can change it, or here's the solution.
Yes.
And all it is sometimes, and it could be either of us, but I'll say, hey, babes. And you got to get the person at the right time again, which is so obvious. But they can't be cooking and trying to put the kids' shoes on and checking their watch and getting. Have you got a minute? I just need to let you know that I'm feeling really stressed because I've got this on and this on, and so I want to help you, and that's where I'm coming from. And I think, especially for Jenni, who can read and feel so much,
Yes.
she can feel I'm nervous or stressed or anxious or frustrated. She doesn't know why. She doesn't know if it's because of something she's done. And usually it's nothing to do with her. But just that open dialogue. She doesn't take it on personally like a criticism because I haven't fired it as an arrow.
Yes.
I presented my heart and said, this is me. This is my stuff. This is my shit or whatever, or my childhood wounding, or my belief.
Yeah.
And I just want to show you it. And I know I can put there, and I put my heart there for her, knowing that she's not going to go, yeah, why you do this? You do this all the time. You're always like, wah, wah, stab my heart.
Yeah.
Which would mean I'll never do it again for 10 years. I
Yes.
can do that. She goes, come here. I love you. And I go, thanks, baby. I love you. And tears or whatever, or no tears, or just a breath. And right.
Yeah.
Let's get into it. Boom. It's like, it's so simple.
Yes.
But nobody teaches you this at school.
No, not at all. And Dan, just by actually just verbalizing that, allowing somebody else to know that and understand that that's where you're at right now, it almost dissolves the whole stress thing. It almost dissolves that stuff that you've just talked about. It just sort of seems to put things into a centered alignment of some sort, which just makes it all flow beautifully from there on.
Truth,
it's crazy, eh?
Honesty. I mean, there's truth, transparency, there's honesty, there's connection, there's intimacy there's communication, there's trust, there's love, there's support. It's all there. Whereas if you don't get that little bit right, there's tension, there's suspicion, there's frustration, there's lack of trust.
Yeah.
You then start niggling. They're niggling you. They're starting to feel like you're judging them because they think that the story they've got is that they didn't do something right, and they're like, "Oh,
yes."
And then it ends up in a boil, and you're like, "Well, why did you?" And we just get in those patterns.
Yes, exactly. And I remember taking it on when partner came down, made coffee, went out onto the porch, and didn't speak. Didn't say good morning. Might have said good morning, but then it was just nothing else for at least an hour or so. And I used to I'd take that on. I'd think, oh my God, that's because of last night, wasn't maybe how we wanted it to go. Those sorts of things start, amplifying me. And when I actually thought, right, I've had enough of this, because I'm making up all the story. And that's creating a lot of emotion in me and rant, and actually when I confronted him about that, or sat and spoke to him about it, he said, no, I just don't like a lot of chatter when I first get up. I need to just sit and have some quiet time. Easy as. Oh, okay.
And immediately we've touched into what I call, the difference between the masculine and the feminine there. Yeah, the masculine just loves that 0 point, the nothingness, the silence, trying to complete and finish everything. The sleep and the feminine, on the other hand, is more into relationship and connection and chaos and stuff happening and more and let's do this as well. So when somebody explains that, the man is like,
yeah,
and the woman's like, what's the problem? What's the matter? Nothing. I'm happy. I couldn't be happier.
Yeah.
And the woman's like wanting the connection. Once you understand that's all that is.
Totally. It was easy. Yeah.
We have a beautiful fire pit on our property, and we have men's circles here and women's circles here. When the men sit around the fire, it's unbelievable. I mean, just the focus on the fire. And basically what happens is I say, do we want to share? And we go around and it's like, first man want to share, and it's like, it's all good.
Yeah.
Now, when the women sit around the fire, whoa, from 100 yards away, the noise, the cackling, the laughter, the screaming, the shadows.
Yeah.
So the fire puts the men into this, we've done it, everything's burning. It's all burning up. And the women fires them up into this Mother Earth energy comes from deep within and below. It's like,
Yeah.
And just to clarify, there's men who have a lot of feminine energy and there's women who have a lot of masculine energy, and a lot of us have a bit of both. But just understanding that bit and to flip it again, this is a tiny little example of how something drove me mad, and how once I understood some basic stuff, one of the things that used to frustrate me, or it did my head in, and it was all internal stuff, was the food cupboards would always be, and the fridge was always like, it would get maybe half empty and then it'd be full again with stuff almost flowing out, and the stuff at the back would be like not moved to the front, and then we'd lose some tomatoes which were going too soft because we hadn't organised it properly, and there'd be more stuff here and there'd be more jars, and the oldest one, it was chaos in my opinion. It was madness. I couldn't keep control of it, and I was like, you're not helping me. Why? I couldn't understand. It was almost, and I'm sure I'm not the only person who's thought, are you doing this deliberately, not following a structured, organised plan to do my head in? I mean, these thoughts cross your mind. Are you deliberately?
They do.
Are you deliberately doing this? Are you trying to make me go mad? Well, then once I understood that the feminine loves more, kind of loves that chaos. That just lack of structure, just let Mother Earth mulch, like a compost, stuff goes off, throw it out, get new stuff in, and the abundance, and lots of children, and feeding the family, and feeding everyone. There's so much food, and once I understood it was a hugely feminine characteristic, my heart just went, my wife is so feminine. Bring it on. Bring all the chaos. And now I look in the cupboards and it's like, I don't know, where's this one? Oh, it looks like we've got 5 pots of olives open in the fridge. That's the record. 5. We had black pitted olives. We had green olives. I mean, if I was in the man cave, if I was in the bachelor pad, you would never open a pot of olives until that other pot was empty. And I'd know where it was. It'd have a position. And that's the masculine feminine dance that we live with them. And luckily, food in the fridge is just a tiny thing, but when you get to the bigger issues of life and living together, it's applying those same principles into our lives of why we're feeling or wanting to go this way in life. And
and I there's 2 things that I sort of say to clients sometimes when it comes up and when it's needed, is that men have the man cave. They have to go into the cave, and they've got to, for me, this is how I see it. They've got to go into the cave, and they're contemplating, they're looking and deciding on what needs to be done next, or what it is that they've got to sort out. They've got to have that space and that quiet, like the fire, to be able to just be and get it straight in their head. What we tend to do, because we female, is that we tend to want to know what they're thinking. We have to know what you're thinking, and men don't share the thinking thing as much as women do. So therefore we run into the cave and we're at them. What's going on? Why have you come into the cave? And I'll say to these women often, just leave them in the cave. They're okay. As soon as I've got it sorted, they'll come out and they'll let you know what's going on. But if you just got to leave them to it. The other thing that I've really come to see is that men need respect. If a man in a relationship hasn't got that respect, then that for him is basically no relationship. Women need to be shown that they're loved, not just told, but shown. And if men can show them how much they love them, they're on the winning edge with a woman. So those 3 things really have really sort of helped me in understanding and being able to, accept men in the cave, definitely, for sure. But
Yeah, I mean, I've actually got a workshop which I'm putting together now. It's coming up pretty soon, called the Man Cave, and it
cool.
is exactly that: the men being able to come together.
Yeah.
And it is fascinating when there's just men in that masculine kind of,
Mm,
and
mm.
nobody wants anything. I mean, we
No.
all have work to do. We all need stuff, but we're all like, oh, it's good to be
Mm.
here. Good to be here
Yeah.
with men who are just going, that's it. And so when the woman is able to help the man kind of go into his man cave, and she enables that and encourages that and says, go and do
Yes.
your man cave, which could be the gym, could be going
Yeah.
for a long run, could be just going fishing with your mates,
Yeah.
or going to watch
It's a
the
great thing.
sport. That's the man
Mm.
cave, just the nothingness of going to watch the sport and watching it, coming home. If the
Yeah.
men will almost love more that woman who enables that freedom. The
Yes.
man appreciates the woman who, it's easy to think, well, I don't want him to lose him, but you got to give him that freedom and say, I'll enable your
Mm.
freedom to happen. And then the man goes, this
Yes.
is my sort of a woman. She's letting me go. I love her. I love this woman. She says,
Yes.
go. I'm free. The
Yes.
masculine wants that freedom. So any woman who enables the freedom in the partner, or the
Mm.
masculine partner, could be, two women, two men, but the one who's in
Yes.
the masculine, who's wanting to get to nothing, and the one who's in the feminine is encouraging that behavior. It's
Mm.
incredible for the man. And
It
Jenny does
is.
that beautifully with me. She's always saying, just go do your thing. Go on your man's weekend. Go and do your weights.
Yeah.
And then the opposite exactly. Couldn't agree more that the woman, the feminine, is wanting connection. And one of the things we don't get very well as men, yeah, it is that realizing that communication with the female is so important to the feminine.
Mm. Definitely.
That we,
And I think more women too now are coming in. I know for me, I feel like I'm real Libran with my scales. I'm real feminine and real masculine. I have
yeah,
that,
yeah,
and
beautiful
my
balance.
masculine, I can definitely need that quiet and space. But I think more and more women are coming into that place themselves too, and they do respect men that can honor their freedom as well, for
Yeah.
sure.
I think the
You
other
know,
important part you touched on is the men need to be trusted. Was it trust or respect? I think.
respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know what your version of trust is or respect, but for me I think it's as much trust as respect. I think the two are very
Yes.
much linked.
Yeah. I would agree. Yeah.
Um,
Mm,
that the woman or the feminine trusts the masculine to lead and make decisions.
mm,
And for a man to feel truly empowered, to be able to feel that woman's trust at some point, somewhere in the relationship, is so empowering.
yes.
And it's
Yeah.
a pattern which I see time and time again, because women are so gifted and able to step into this role of masculine.
Mm,
And I don't know whether it is because the men are so tired over 1,000 years of doing it, or we haven't had to fight to get to that place like the women have over the last 100 years. But the women
mm,
can step into it so easy. But the big problem we're having is that as the women go, I can do this, I've got this,
yeah.
the men go, cool, well, you do it. So the
Yeah.
women are leading, they're leading themselves, they're leading the men, they're in the masculine directional, I'm leading, you're following, but they are in the
Yes.
masculine role, and the man, without even realizing, drops into the feminine role. And then the polarity is just all over the shot, whether,
It is. Yeah.
and that polarity is that magnetism which really brings on the charge, for want of a better word, or
Yeah.
the passion. So we have people
Yes.
still in love, but there's no passion because this. And so even if you're giving your man a chance to excel in small areas of leading
Mm,
you, it
mm,
might just be driving the car.
yeah.
It might just be, will you make me dinner?
Yeah.
Can you do the fire? Because women can drive perfectly well. Women can
Absolutely.
make meals perfectly well. They can light fires. They can do it all. We know, but the men just drop out of all of it, and suddenly they're making the dinner. They're driving the car. The man's sat in
That's
the car
right.
being driven.
Yeah.
He's being cooked for. He's been having his fire lit. He's having his.
I think, Dan, when I looked back too, because I came out of my marriage and I decided I wanted to give to me what I'd been giving to men, really, in
Yes.
relationship, and that I gave myself over. So I lost myself in relationship, which I think a lot of people do until we don't, we learn not to. But in that coming out of that, like being on my own now for 19 years, and that's a choice I choose to, because I really enjoy my own life, and
Yep.
until I find somebody who's going to respect that enough and not want to take it over and all that sort of thing. But anyway, what I saw, and when I look back, I see that women had lost themselves. This was a very masculine world, and we lost our way because we were placed behind and suppressed, and all of that stuff. We know the story. And I think women had to pull away to be able to find themselves again, and find out what woman is today. What is woman
Yep.
today?
Yep.
And in that, I saw how men lost their place.
Yep.
They lost their role. Women were starting to really take lead, and there still are. There's still a lot of that going on. And what I feel now is that it's time for women to really open their hearts to men again, and allow them to really come back into that place or that role that they had in leadership, because their role was to lead and protect the woman, the children, and the land. And that now is women had to really start protecting themselves from man. So they lost their role. That's when we pulled away and started looking at, well, we need to protect ourselves. We need to protect our children and take them and not allow these men. Yeah. So it's changed a wee bit now, still on that sort of role, though, I feel. But
what you talked about there is really interesting, because for me, you've touched on some beautiful things. And this is kind of more what I see in the Western world, my experience. I'm not saying it's happening worldwide everywhere. But,
yes.
But absolutely, the man has kind of squashed the female, and she's had to move away from underneath the man to find who she be. And we've now got this place of the woman almost coming back in. And the danger is that the woman, the female or woman, now comes in almost over the top of the man. And exactly what the man did to the woman can now do to the man and squash the man.
Yeah,
which is almost just as screwed up as we were before. It's just reversed. It's like, well, you did it to us for 1,000 years.
That's right.
So for me, the beautiful thing is, because the other part I want to make really clear is not that I don't think women should lead, because I believe the woman has this intuition and connection to Mother Earth and can feel so deeply. As somebody put it, when you're making a decision, sure, think about it and but when you're making a really big decision, don't think about it, feel.
Yes.
When it comes to those big decisions, that whole, I don't know why, but I just feel we got to get out of here. Okay.
Yeah.
So where I would love to see us move more, and again, I'm not saying this is across all areas of our lives and across humanity, but I see almost the masculine, and this is what happens in Jenni, our workshops more. I'm almost in the masculine role a lot of the time in the workshop. And again, we flip across. I'll be the man,
I can imagine.
Women, I'll step forward, she steps me. But there's a lot of time where I'm in the masculine, supporting Jenni. I got you. I'm watching what's going on. I got the music. I'm supporting you. I'm listening. I'll sort that out. I got you, babe. I got your back. If you lose where you're at, if you want an example, I got you here.
Yes.
And she is actually in the role of leading almost energetically, like a female can feel the pulse and the energy of what's happening in the current in the room.
Yes.
So she's leading in a feminine way, and I'm supporting her in a masculine way.
That's how I feel relationships. That's for me is what I would call the ultimate type of relationship, really.
I feel. And you can almost apply that as well to imagine, rather than this lots of, like the old politician style where the men are at the top making all the decisions. And again, I don't want to see women coming into politics and being exactly like the men.
No, I know.
And we
I
keep seeing
know.
it. I can see it already happening. Yeah,
Same,
we've got a
same.
woman in power. Yeah, she's acting just like all the men did. It's horrendous. It's not
Yes, I
better.
know.
In fact, it's almost worse because,
Yeah.
I don't know, that's,
You expect something different from her, and man, you'd
and
say, "Oh, yeah, that's just how it
so
goes."
it's not even a man-woman thing in some ways, but it comes to politics, it's the same thing. We need somebody
Mm,
there who can
mm,
feel, who
yeah.
loves, who cares, who's coming from another place,
Mm,
support. So I don't know. I think this is just more than just. It's that women's intuition which we need, whether it's in business, in
yeah.
home, in
Mm,
relationship.
yeah. And I think it's more, for me, I sort of feel like it's more where we become these two strong pillars,
Mm,
and whereas before we've been this sort of thing, all intertwined with the codependencies and all the patterning and the programming and,
yeah.
all the stuff, all the neediness and things. Whereas this, for me, when we get this stuff sorted out, we become this, and we can let the wind blow between, and there's that trust and respect and honoring, and everything seems to be in a stronger, more centered, aligned space there, and it's in that higher love space for me. I think that's we've done all the other. Now it's time to shift ourselves into that higher love of self-governing, and just that love for each other that's not damaging. Mm.
Totally. Yeah.
Unconditional in many ways. Um, so, the world is struggling right now, isn't it, Dan? What do you what do you think's going on?
At what
You
level? Before I head off in the wrong direction.
Yeah, well, in that, like where we were just talking even around the relationship stuff, but where, like, how do we get this world back into, or
Mm,
not even back into, but in some sort of level of, and it is, I suppose, in many ways, it's starting to unify. People are starting to come together in
mm.
communities now, and working their way through this old program, I suppose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I suppose in working with
No, that makes sense.
relationships the way you are.
The big thing for me, and I always jokingly say I'm a slow learner, but at least I'm getting there. I've got, it's that, it's the internal work. We are
Mm,
so used to looking externally for the solution. Whether it's the dog training,
yes.
there's a problem with my dog and over thousands of dogs. There's nothing wrong with your dog, mate.
Mm,
It's just what you're
yeah.
doing. And thousands of
Yeah.
people. Luckily
Mm,
with the dogs, people kind of know they need some help.
yeah.
And then when it comes to kids,
Yeah.
if you were to say how much of it is the kids and how much of it is me, well, 98% of it is you as a parent.
Mm,
Because you haven't cleared your stuff.
yeah.
These kids don't want much. They really don't.
No.
If they could
No.
have a parent who could just not be, bzz, and I understand why, because I get there, connected here. Bzz, bzz, I got this, panic, stressed, frustrated, angry, upset, grief, and it all comes out
Mm,
on the poor child. So if we could do our internal work, our relationship with our children would just be transformed.
yes.
And then it's the same with our
Absolutely.
partners. We want better relationships. Well, guess what? Rather than going, it's out there. When we change this in here, suddenly we attract something very different.
Absolutely. And,
So,
I'm seeing it in businesses now too.
mm,
There's some lovely, some beautiful stuff happening, and I am getting excited.
yep,
I was wanting to be excited before, a few months or a year back, but it sort of wasn't quite there. Now I really am. I can
I
see
feel
that
that.
there's so much shifting, and we are energetically in a whole new space.
Yep.
It's just amazing what's going on. So I think more of that just it's happening, and it'll just keep expanding.
The way I see it is almost people doing their own work in whatever way they do, coming together in
Mm.
groups of men's circles, 10
Yes.
workshops, community.
Yeah.
But then those groups of men, I was chatting to somebody about this yesterday. I got my group, my network, 10, 20, 30 men, probably, if I pushed it out there, a web of 100 men who I know well, who are good men ready to come together. Well, this guy's got 100 men, 200 men. And I said to him, imagine we bring them together.
Yes. Amazing.
It's almost like the wolf pack. He got a wolf pack here and a wolf pack here. And we come together just to go, we are the wolf pack. We're a big wolf. We're all wolves. We're all connected.
Yes.
It's not that we have to live together all the time, but we then go back.
Yeah.
But just to realize we are part of something bigger than ourselves, bigger than our little group. And it's almost breaking down the tribal kind of, this is us, that's them.
Yes.
And if we connect, we'll fight.
Yeah.
No, that's them, that's us. We can come together. We're one. We're connected. We love. Connected. We all love. We're all.
Yeah.
So I can feel there's a lot of people coming together at different places, but it comes down to the smaller groups.
Yes.
So it's got to be this from the ground up. Grassroots.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's happening. It's great stuff. So yeah, let's bring more of that on for sure. And coming together, it's all coming together with people like yourself, who's putting in all this amazing, beautiful heart stuff out there with all your groups and people. So thank you so much for all you do, Dan. And Jenni, of course, who we've had, your beautiful wife, on this intimate conversation. And our goal with both of you is to bring you back on, both of you together, and talk about your relationship stuff, work in a future intimate conversation chat.
Sounds
so
good,
thank you, Dan, very much for coming in today. It's been an absolute honour and privilege. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Mandy. And if anybody does want to get in touch about the dog stuff, I don't know if you can see it, theonlinedogtrainer.com. So if you type in theonlinedogtrainer.com, if you're thinking, I got a problem with my dog, what do I do, Dan? Just go there, go online, sort it out, all good.
Beautiful. And a lot of your training stuff would also work with like cats and different animals as well, Is like what you'd sort of little different?
No, because what that program is very much the practical side of how do you connect up with your dog so you're not almost in a codependent, enmeshed, entangled, I call it an unhealthy relationship. So basically, most of us, I would say, are in an unhealthy relationship with our dog. We don't even realize it. We need this from the dog. The dog goes, well, I can give you that. But then we're not really leading the dog at all. We're just enmeshed in this messy puddle. And then we shout, come here. And the dog's like, why should I? Who do you think you are?
Yeah.
This is clearing that up. Well, how do I go there? This is clearing that up and going, hey, I love you. And I'm almost in charge here, making the decisions, and you'll be happy. I'll look after you. And the dog goes, beautiful. Got it.
It's
very practical steps. At the next level, if you want to get into the energetics, there's an audio book of this. You can get hold of.
Beautiful.
That goes into the energetics of how to be in the energy bubble with your dog.
That's lovely, Dan. So all on the onlinedogtrainer.com.
That's
very cool. Awesome.
Thanks, Mandy. Appreciate it, Mandy.
Thank you. Lots of love.
Yeah, I love you too. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.